Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Real quick, welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. As always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Big win for the Braves. Happened a couple of minutes ago. We're going to talk about that real quick. And of course, we got some news around Braves country that I know you guys want to talk about. We're going to hit that as well. It was a pretty good game today, I think, overall. Charlie Morton, for the most part, was really good. He made it through the fifth inning, had some ups and downs, but managed to get the win with it. So, not too bad for the Braves. The Nationals are obviously within the division. The Braves have a lot of teams within the division that are coming up soon. So a win today was a very big deal, and it was a good one to get early on in this series. Kind of shifts the momentum for the Braves, and I think it's a big deal. Luckily, we hit the Nationals when a lot of their players are hitting a slump. I mean, Trey Turner was 0 for 4 today. Juan Soto not looking like himself lately. So maybe that's some luck going the Braves' way. They could certainly use it. But overall, I thought it was a good game. Ironically, the funny part is, the whole big inning, the big first inning that happened off of one thing, and that was Acuna, getting a excuse me swing single, and that kind of kicked everything off. So I thought that was a big deal. Obviously, Acuna homer to take the lead, tied for the lead in Major League Baseball. With 16. He's tied with Vladimir Guerrero and Adolis Garcia from the Texas Rangers. So that was a very good thing to see for Acuna and, of course, the Atlanta Braves just in general. Some of the bench bats came in clutch today. Heredia knocked in a run, and A-Ray got a big walk to lead to the bases loaded. And obviously some good things to see, but I want to talk about kind of everything that's been going on this season. A lot to talk about in that regard. Of course, some big news out of Atlanta this past week. We're going to hit that in just a second. I'm going to tell you kind of where I'm at on that. But before we do that, I do want to talk about my sponsors real quick. Go check out LlerandIGloves.com. Let me put their graphic up here for you guys. Go check these guys out, guys. They're the best gloves on the market. I promise you, for the price that they're at, there's no better. Their phone number's right there on the screen, 404-401-3794. Go check them out. And if you want to see those gloves, the best place to do that is, of course, LlerandIGloves.com, which is also on your screen. So let's talk about the Braves. I think we all know that this season has been a tough one to watch right now. All the setbacks, Soroka not coming back this year, Huascar Ynoa now on the 60-day IL. Let's not forget about Travis d'Arnaud. On top of that, some of these young prospects aren't quite having the immediate effect that we were hoping they would. Christian Pache, for example. William Contreras has been nothing if not solid behind the plate, but he's now our one catcher that we can count on offensively. So, I really think that as a fan base right now, we're having some struggles. You throw on top of that the incident with Marcell Ozuna this past week. It's obviously not a very good scene right now. In terms of Ozuna, my channel is a baseball channel. I talk about stuff on the field. Sometimes things happen off the field that I don't choose to talk about, and that is what I'm going to do with this particular instance. Major League Baseball has a strict no-tolerance policy for domestic abuse, for domestic incidents and things like this, and I think that's a good thing. I think that it's hard to disagree with that. And I'm not going to defend, and I'm also not going to bash Ozuna. It's a situation that I think has wrongdoing on both sides. It's a situation that I think is a gray area, and it's a situation that I don't really want to be involved in any capacity. With that said, the way I'm going to refer to Ozuna, the way that I think we're going to have to talk about him from now on is in any regard of a timetable of his possible return or in any regard of who could potentially replace him. That's where I'm headed with this. I am not going to talk about, I've seen some of the other YouTube creators. I've watched their videos on the Ozuna thing. They've, not going to say they've used it for views, but it is a headline. It's out there. That's just not what I do on my channel. I would say the same thing for a Phillies player. Ironically, a Phillies player went through that last year. I would say the same thing for any of that. I don't tend to talk about something that TMZ would pick up. I talk about stuff on the field. With that said, let's talk about the Braves. They've obviously had, again, a lot go against their way this year. The All-Star game kicked it off at the beginning of the season, and it's just kind of been downhill since. So I don't think the season is a lost one. I've seen that sentiment from a lot of Braves fans on my social media, on different avenues of you know just places I've read this stuff, articles written about it all the time, and I think that's a bit too far. I think this is a team that knows it's good, that knows it can compete. And again, I've said this I don't know how many times this year. As quote unquote bad as the Braves have played this year, they're only in a game and a half back, maybe less now. I haven't really looked at the standings since the game ended, but it's easy to say, we're not as good as we were last year. We're not going to win. Don't forget, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Now, with that said, I agree. We've had tons of issues that need to be resolved. But I am not here to panic. I think that the Braves are more than likely, in terms of Ozuna, I think the Braves are more than likely going to sit quiet, as they should, until the legal system does what it does. And after that point, they may have to look for a replacement if the contract is voided. And make no mistake, that contract can be voided. They will not, if this goes a drastically wrong way, the Braves can't get out of this contract, a 4-year contract. So with that, who are some guys that we could go get potentially? I guess I'll throw that out there because this always seems to get some excitement out of Braves fans. Well, let's talk about some free agents. Ryan Braun is a free agent. Yasiel Puig is a free agent. And Yasiel Puig is also a guy that we almost picked up not too long ago during the COVID season. So he is a guy that we could potentially go get. Also, Nick Markakis is a free agent. Just going to throw that one out there as well. But I think I'm leaning Charlie Blackmon. And I'm not out here just, ready to go for a replacement on Ozuna quite yet. But Charlie Blackmon's a guy who's on the last leg of his contract. He went to Georgia Tech and Young Harris, so he knows the area pretty well. I think he's a guy that can finish his contract with the Rockies in Atlanta. Can probably play left field. He's an outfielder. And I wouldn't mind it. I think he's also a very level-headed guy, so very minimal off-the-field issues. So I think that is certainly a possibility. I think there are a lot of possibilities. But I do think the Braves are going to be active, especially if they get their money back on Ozuna. And to be fair, I don't want to dig too personal here, but Ozuna hasn't played quite as well as he did last year throughout this whole year. Probably had some personal issues going on throughout the year. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe this just got the Braves out of a contract they didn't necessarily want to be in with hindsight, knowing what they know now. So maybe, just maybe, they can get their money back, go get somebody, maybe go get a couple things. We all know how tight money's been this year. And, maybe they use this to their advantage to some degree. But we will see. Now, I want to also say, for those of you that have been watching the pre-recorded things that I've been able to do, I appreciate it. As you can tell, the set probably looks a little different. If you notice I'm looking up there, that's because my monitor is now up there. I'm now operating on a PC that you guys helped me buy. I do appreciate it. And I have kind of a new setup. So if you see me having some mistakes, just give me some time. I'm learning the new setup. But with that said, the pre-recorded things, I really appreciate you guys watching this. I've said this a ton. Shane Green's coming back soon. I did a video on it. You should go check it out. Shane Green's coming back soon. That's going to be a huge addition to the bullpen. The bullpen, by the way, is getting into their groove. I think a big part of that is Chris Martin coming back healthy. And I think Shane Green's going to have sort of the same effect. With that said, a big lefty bat could work wonders. In terms of replacing Ozuna, if that needs to happen. I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. But, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of things that we're not going to know for a while. I think the Braves don't really know what they want to do yet. But they will. They'll figure out something. And this is a team that, look, we've seen it time and time again. This is a team, again, that knows they're good, knows that they can compete with anybody. And it is a marathon, but this is a team that can get hot really quick. We saw the offense fire up today in the first inning. This is a team, they haven't quite hit a hot streak. Not quite yet, but I think they can. I think they will, and I think they could potentially move into the postseason. Once they get to the postseason, anything can happen. To quote Alex Anthopoulos during the offseason, he's built this team not to win 1 year, but to get to the postseason as many times as possible to get a potential World Series title. And that's a philosophy I believe in. That's a philosophy that I think, if not this year, maybe next. That is something that I think, it's frustrating. Don't get me wrong. I know it's frustrating to watch and to see things happen. And, being the armchair GM that we all are, getting frustrated, why don't we go get somebody? Why don't we go get somebody? A lot more goes into it than that. The money situation is certainly a problem. And I think it's going to continually be a problem. Now, in terms of the prospects that we all want to bring up, I'm actually going to a Stripers game for the first time on Wednesday night. If you're there, come say hello. I just decided this week I'm going. I want to go and I want to enjoy a Stripers game. With that, I want to see kind of how things are set up, because as excited as I am to see Drew Waters, as excited as I was to see Tucker Davidson, as excited as I was to see Austin Riley, in 2019, I think our prospects are being rushed a little too far along, because they lost a minor league season. Everybody's frustrated with Christian Pache right now. His bat's not quite where it needs to be. His defense is great, don't get me wrong, but we need a bat in center field. We don't need necessarily the best glove if he doesn't have any kind of bat. With that said, if he's the cream of the crop, I don't necessarily want to bring up Drew Waters yet. Because if Christian Pache is a better hitter than Drew Waters, I don't want to rush Drew Waters to the show. I want to wait a couple years, let him develop, because again, Ian Anderson has worked wonders in the major leagues. But offensively, it seems to be different, because Ian Anderson worked wonders. He did lose a major league season, but you wouldn't notice. I think you may notice when you bring up guys like that. Now, the one guy that I would probably change my mind on would be Kyle Muller. I think that guy has a ton of potential and could potentially pitch in a bullpen role tomorrow. I don't think they're necessarily going to go to that. I don't think they will go to that, not this year, or at least not early on this year. They might late. But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I'm going to get to you guys' comments, guys. The best way to talk to me is through a super chat. I'm sorry. It's been a long time since I've done one of these. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I always enjoy catching up with you. And it really makes my day to be able to do this again. But, let's just circle back here. The Braves, at the beginning of the season, all of our hopes were high, right? Rightfully so. We just went toe-to-toe with the Dodgers, almost went to the World Series, probably should have went to the World Series. And, I think ultimately that leads us to have such high expectations for everybody that we get so frustrated when things don't go exactly how things should. I've seen some talk about fire Snitker. I think that's the dumbest thing we can do. None of this, not everything is up to the manager. Frankly, personal life at home is not up to the manager. Whether or not you get a hit is up to the manager. That's not up to the manager. Not even necessarily trade deals are fully up to the manager or Alex Anthopoulos. There's a Liberty Media. There's a lot of aspects that we don't know. Again, in terms of prospects, we don't get to see those guys develop on an everyday basis. We can see guys struggle in major leagues and say, oh, I want Drew Waters up right now. Well, Drew Waters might come up and struggle worse than Johan Camargo or Ender Inciarte or any guy you want to throw out there. So with that, I think it's time to slow down. And I think it's time to just appreciate the Braves for what they're doing, because they are winning games. That is one thing that they've been able to do some way or another. They have been able to win games. But they have been able to crack 500. That is a very frustrating predicament to be in. But I don't think this is where the Braves are going to be throughout this entire season. They're too exciting. They're too good. You can't tell me Freddie Freeman's not going to break out at some point, get his batting average where it should be. I just don't see that I just don't think that's going to happen. And with the return on Ozuna, if that's what ends up happening, I think the Braves can go get somebody. I really do. The Braves right now, by the way, second in the division. They've also played about 6 more games than the Mets. So the Mets are also going to have a ton of doubleheaders, in theory, including a couple against the Braves. So I think the Braves could do this. They're 3 games back. They're, to me, I really feel like they have a 490 winning percentage right now. They're going to crack 500 at some point. I really think it's going to be, the season's going to finish strong. I really think so because, look at our pitching staff right now. Max Fried's getting back into gear. He had a rough start. Let's be real. He had a really rough start, but he's back into gear. He's back where he should be. Charlie Morton had a rough start. I actually attended that game. He had a really rough start, but he's circled back to be what he thought he was going to be. I think he has before today, he had a .69 ERA in the past 2 starts, so he's looking all right. Ian Anderson had a rough start last time, but he's going to have that. He's young. But that's not the Ian Anderson we know. And I really think the bullpen's circling back to being what we thought it was going to be. Now we got pitching, but our offense, it seems to me that the inconsistency is the biggest issue. And that tends to happen, but I really don't think it's going to last. I just don't. So let's get into some of you guys' comments real quick. Yasuki Knight says, good win for the Braves today. I agree. I think it's time to get some momentum on the Braves side, and I think a win is a way to do it and start the series nonetheless. David Thrash says a win is a win. Not as close as some of these games have been, but I agree with you. It's kind of up and down, a little bit frustrating. Jameson says, that was a much-needed win today by the Atlanta Braves with everything that the team has been going through in the last 48, 72 hours. I do agree. Obviously it's a very unfortunate situation, but hopefully we'll move past it for the better. Let me see. Please don't get Puig. Nathan Cox, why do you think that? Look, I wasn't a Puig guy either. I wasn't. But I will say that the recent, let the kids play thing, because I'm kind of a traditionalist, but the recent let the kids play thing has kind of turned my head on it because I never liked Puig because he was a Dodger. Just imagine he was an Atlanta Brave. Would you really dislike him? I think he would fit in well with some of the Braves, not necessarily all of them, but I think, he would fit in well. I think a guy like Brian Snitker, being a manager over Puig could kind of restrain him a little bit. I think he's also got some age on him now. He's been out of the game for a while, potentially because he's a controversial figure. I think, if we got Puig, it wouldn't even necessarily be a long-term commitment. It could just be to the end of the year. I wouldn't necessarily hate it. I wouldn't necessarily love it, but I wouldn't necessarily hate it. I will tell you that a lot of Braves fans do love it. The reason I know that, when we did get Puig for that short little time, he got COVID tested and, they just said forget it. But when we did get him, you guys watched those videos like they were going out of style. Every video I did with Puig's name in it got tons of views, and it was just on. It honestly got me. I think it got me over 1,000 subscribers at the time. So I know how much interest is with Puig, and I'm not name dropping him just to get views, but there is a ton of interest with Yasiel Puig. I'm not saying I would love it either, but you got to put his name in that hat. Ryan Braun is another one. Charlie Blackmon's another one. I think you could see a big trade happen because I honestly don't think the farm is as, if I'm being honest, I don't think the farm is quite, I don't think it quite has the depth it used to, mainly because guys like Acuna and Albies have come up, Dansby's come up, Christian Pache's now come up, Drew Waters is on the verge, Austin Riley's come up, so the names are kind of going away. You're not necessarily hearing the rumblings like we did with Austin Riley and Christian Pache. We haven't heard them in a long time. I'm not saying they're not out there, because they certainly are. But I think we have a lot less of them. So I'm not opposed to trading some minor leaguers. With that said, Michael Harris is not one of those guys. With the level of excitement around him, I feel differently. I would say Trey Harris is off the table. I really want Trey Harris to get a shot. I think he's a guy that can flat out hit. I think he won a minor league home run derby a couple of years ago. The guy can hit. I would like him to get a shot. I'd like to see him get a shot in the show. Now, whether or not that happens is not for me to decide. Again, I don't see these guys play on a regular basis, but the stats, the the rumblings that you hear, the rumors you hear, that's when I tend to believe. I like to listen to the guys that watch the players every day. Okay, like the Gwinnett Stripers. I don't get to watch them every day. I don't live up there. I don't get to do that. But the guys that do are who I tend to believe. So my sources up there tell me, hey, Austin Riley is going to be the guy. Okay, if you say so. I went to his debut, hit a homer, went on a mean streak with 18 homers in May, and then look at him now. Okay, so Trey Harris is a guy I believe in. Drew Waters is obviously a guy. Michael Harris is so young, it's hard to tell, but I think he could be a future big talent in the outfield, but long ways away. And I don't want to see those guys necessarily right now. I want to see the Braves go get somebody right now. They got money to spend if they void that contract with Ozuna. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Ozuna should not come back to the major leagues. There's been others, and they've come right back to major leagues. I think at minimal you see a suspension here. I don't really want to get into it any more than that, but you hate to see it. You really do. After the season he had last year, you really hate to see it. Let me see. Drew Waters might be on their minds. Jeff Barry says that. Jeff Barry, I would say that he's certainly on their minds, but I think their minds are also looking elsewhere. There's been a couple other guys. Obviously, they called up Abraham Almani today. He's been killing it in the minors. Go look at his stats. That'll raise your eyebrows. And look, these guys aren't named guys. They're not guys with big names like Drew Waters, Christian Pache, Ronald Acuna at the time. But Abraham Almani, if he's hot, that's the bat I want in the box. I think he drew 2 walks today. He's a good hitter. Same as A-Ray. A-Ray kind of came out of nowhere. Guillermo Heredia, A-Ray Adrianza, and Abraham Almani were all kind of in the same pool in spring training, same pool of competition. The Braves just sort of handpicked Guillermo Heredia and A-Ray. With that said, there's some other ones down there. Orlando Arcia, the Braves just got him on a trade to the Brewers. He's been really killing it in Gwinnett. I don't think they're necessarily going to call him up immediately. I thought they would call him up today. So when they didn't, I was a bit surprised. Just because, the Major League experience, the hype, you can play a lot of different places. I really thought that could be where, we could see him. But give the Braves some credit. Abraham Almani earned a spot, and they gave it to him. So maybe if someone else goes down, you do see Orlando Arcia. Maybe you see him sooner rather than later. I don't know. But if it's me, with a guy like that has all the potential in the world, I think you might see him stay in Gwinnett for a while. And, maybe get called up and given an opportunity later this season. But I think they really want to let him develop because that's been his issue. Over the years he's played with the Brewers, he was, for perspective here, he was just as hyped up as Christian Pache was. He was just as hyped up as a lot of these major prospects were. He just never fully developed. That's what I worry about some of these other prospects like Christian Pache. Orlando Arcia is a guy that I think you have to let him sit in the minors. Not necessarily a year, but until you're confident he's ready to go, he's at the best potential he's going to be for the foreseeable future. Because until then, I don't want to see him touch the major league level. With that said, there are a lot of guys we could go get. I'd be interested to see what they do. I think Riley, by the way, I told you so on Austin Riley. Can't say that enough. A lot of you guys wanted to trade Austin Riley. He's been the most prolific hitter outside of Ronald Acuna on the team. I think you gotta. There's a gray area between letting a prospect develop like Austin Riley, and letting a prospect develop and he never develops into what you think he's going to be. At that point, you'll see a trade. The Braves have made some trades like that throughout. The early part of this year, they traded away some big time prospects. For help in other areas, and it's been interesting to see. So maybe. We'll see. I really think when it comes to like Orlando Arcia, when it comes to Drew Waters, you got if Pache is the cream of the crop, I don't necessarily want to see the others come up because Pache, had like a sub 150 batting average. Okay, he had a couple homers. He had a homer in the postseason last year. So I want to see him develop. And here's the other side of the coin, because I'll be straight with you. I had a conversation with my dad about this. Everybody compares Christian Pache to Andrew Jones. Okay, I asked Andrew Jones about Christian Pache. Okay, I was guilty of this. I said, hey, a lot of people are comparing his game to yours. What do you think? And he said it's really hard to compare. We have similar styles of play, but it's really hard to compare. And I think what he was trying to say is don't put that level of pressure on Christian Pache, because if he doesn't turn into what Andrew Jones was as a center fielder, it's not his fault. It's just a player he was meant to be. With that said, let's talk about it for a second, because my dad was very frustrated with Christian Pache's offensive ability, as a lot of you guys were. A lot of people are with Christian Pache. They finally gave him the spot, and he's not doing well. We knew he wasn't going to do well. We knew his defense is why he's out there. We knew he's got to develop. And I posed a question to anyone that brings that issue to me. Well, what was Andrew Jones's numbers like when he came up? And the first response I always get is he hit a homer in the postseason, and so did Christian Pache. I'm not saying he's going to turn into Andrew Jones. I'm just saying he needs time. It's very easy to just throw a guy under the bus who's not hitting well, but let that guy develop, see what happens. You might be surprised. So that's what I think on Christian Pache and whether or not he comes back. By the way, I think he had some kind of tightness in his leg. I think they're going to give him they're going to wait a little while, give him another start in Gwinnett before he comes up. Maybe I'll run into him on Wednesday night. I'll tell you how he's feeling. But let's see. A lot of talk about Ozuna in here, but I'm done talking about it. That's all I'm going to say at that point. Let me see. Water seems a bit far out to me also. Joey Bears 24 says that. Yeah, I just think it's better to look. As much as I want the Braves to win right now, which trust me, I do. You should have seen how upset I was last year. As much as I want them to win right now, I want them to be good for the foreseeable future. I don't want a prospect to be ruined or a prospect to be traded, and then turn into a great player elsewhere. I want to see the development. And I think Waters is just a little too far out. Let me see. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep up with you. A lot of talk about Ozuna in here tonight. Let me see. The Atlanta Kid, and you didn't even name the pitchers that have come up. Granted, some are hurt. Ian, Max, Bryce, Enoa, Mike, Kyle, Tucker, etc. Yeah, I think those are guys that we could see next year. A lot of those guys. Enoa is a different case. Enoa was our best pitcher before he went out. I thought it was kind of a dumb incident. I think he would tell you it's a dumb incident. He broke his hand while hitting it against the bench, out of frustration. But, it is what it is. I think Atlanta Kid's referring to the prospects that have come up that have made the farm weaker. The farm's not weaker. It is, but it's moved up. It's advanced into the major leagues. Ian Anderson's a great example. Max Fried, great example. Bryce Wilson, who, by the way, pitched excellently against the Dodgers last year in the postseason, is back in AAA. But he's a guy that I think if he's got his head on straight and got his stuff together, could move into a starting rotation role. He obviously wants it. Kyle Wright has had his struggles, but hopefully that'll roll around and he'll turn into something that we didn't expect out of him. Tucker Davidson's a guy that, the Braves have a lot of faith in, have given him some opportunities. He's yet to quite take the mantle and run with it, but he's a guy that could. And he's a guy that I think you got to let develop as well. Jeff Nelson says Waters may need more time, and Pache was trained to hit for more power. He's fast as greased lightning, train him to make contact and use that speed. Yeah, we're seeing Pache make a lot of the same mistakes that a guy like William Contreras has made this year. Taking big hacks, not quite, making the contact he needs to. When he does make contact, it's not quite, hit hard. When he gets on base, you're right, he's fast as greased lightning, but he's struggling to get on base. You can't steal first unless you're Javi Baez. You cannot steal first. So I think it's a matter of time before you see the bat roll around, turn into something. And that's what the Braves are believing in. They're believing that his bat's eventually going to flip around. Now, I do think there's something to be said, that a player can't develop against Gwinnett pitching. Minor league pitching. What I mean by that is not necessarily the Austin Riley, Christian Pache, they're similar, but they're not. Here's why. Austin Riley absolutely killed it hitting in the minors. Okay, he was ready to come up. The Braves could not turn him down. Okay, he made them bring him up. He forced their hand. Okay, when he got to the majors, he killed the majors for about a month. Okay, and then he fell off. That's different than Christian Pache's. Christian Pache did all right in the minors hitting. He did okay. He more so got brought up because Ender's on the last year of his contract. The Braves need to find a replacement sooner rather than later. That's what that was. And he's also Ender. I mean, he's had his hot streaks here and there this year, but his bat's not necessarily flowing off the chart. So I think the Braves figured, our offense killed it last year. We could have, in theory, afford to give up one spot in the lineup to give this top prospect a chance to hit, to develop against major league pitching. It's not a bad philosophy, but then our offense sort of went down. What I mean by that, Ronald Acuna's still around, Dansby Swanson's still around, Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, Marcell Ozuna before yesterday, but then Travis d'Arnaud gets hurt, Marcell Ozuna gets out, and the offense just doesn't turn into what you thought it was going to be. There's also no DH. If there was a DH, I think Pablo Sandoval would take that at this point. But it's just not quite the same as Austin Riley, because with Austin Riley, I told you, no, I don't necessarily want him to go back to the minors. Now, I did want him to go back to the minors and learn to hit the slider. But the moment I saw him taking that pitch the other way to the opposite field, I was sold on him. At that point, let him develop against major league pitching, because he's not going to get any better in Gwinnett. He's only going to get better facing Max Scherzer, facing Justin Verlander, facing Steven Strasburg, Sixto Sanchez, whoever your ace is, he's only going to get better facing those guys at the major league level. Because at the major league level versus minor leagues, it's very different. He's got to learn to adjust. He's got to learn to shorten up. He's got to learn to take the ball the other way and not just hack at everything. That's the same thing you're seeing in William Contreras right now. William Contreras has got to develop against a major league level. And to give Williams Contreras some credit here, he has come right in and fit right in. I'm not saying he's the best catcher out there, but he's on my fantasy team. I went and picked him up because I didn't have a very suitable catcher. I went and took a chance on him. He's done pretty well. To me, I really think ultimately the Braves are not in the worst spot they could be. It could certainly get worse. I would like to see them make some moves on the financial side of things. Maybe go get an outfielder, extend Freddie. I think that's got to happen at some point. You got to give the fans something to believe in here. I really think that it's time. And with Ozuna going out, it would bring some, level-headedness back to the clubhouse, I think, to know that you got Freddie Freeman for the foreseeable future as well. So we'll see. Let me see. Jeff Nelson says Blackmon would be a good choice. Yeah, Blackmon has some friends in Braves country. A lot of folks seem to like Charlie Blackmon. He was in the home run derby a few years back. He's been a career Rocky. I don't necessarily know that the Rockies want to let him go. They might want to extend him. I don't know. But, it is a short-term commitment. Maybe he wants to try his hand in another spot. Maybe he wants the chance to be on a winning team, because all credit to the Colorado Rockies, they are not. So maybe they're sellers. They're obviously not playing real well. The only real solid player other than Blackmon they have on top of my head is Trevor Story. So maybe they're sellers at the deadline. Maybe they go get them. But I think you might see the Braves just, continue to do what they're doing right now in terms of platooning different players until the All-Star break, until someone's a seller and they can go get a big bat. Because look, there's only been a couple of big free agent bats for the Braves historically. Fred McGriff was one. Other than that, there's not been a ton. Josh Donaldson they got in the offseason, but not a whole lot at the deadline. So it would be interesting if they went and did that. That would be a huge boost for the Braves if they went and did that. So let me see. Somebody is asking about Braden Shoemake, but I lost my place, so give me just a second. Let me see. Sorry, guys. All right, Atlanta Kid, Tyler, is it just me, or do I think? I don't know. Do you think? Brendan Shoemake could be the Johan Camargo replacement, 22. He can hit for contact and can play so many different spots in the field like Johan. I don't think Johan has a hit this season, to tell you the truth. He's had very limited time at the plate, but I don't believe he has a hit this season. I like Johan just as much as the next guy. I truly do. I mean, y'all know me. I've interviewed Johan. I like Johan a ton. Super nice guy. But if he's struggling like he's struggling, you may see him get showcased and sent off somewhere. And I mean that with all due respect. He's just not hitting well. He's not playing every day, which I think affects his mojo, which affects his playing. He's not doing very well at all. So I really think Johan, Ender, the guys like that, I don't know how long they're going to be with the Braves. I think Ender is definitely running out of time. Um, and I say that again with all due respect. These are people's jobs I'm talking about here, but I just don't see a spot for guys like that. Not when, you got guys in spring training in a player pool like Guillermo Heredia, Abraham Almani, Jason Kipnis, who, by the way, is not doing so bad in Gwinnett himself. A-Ray Adrianza, guys like that off the bench. Pablo Sandoval, who has one at bat a game and makes the most out of it every time. So with guys like that, I just don't see a spot for a guy like Johan Camargo. But how long term is Guillermo Heredia? How long term is A-Ray Adrianza? I don't know. I don't necessarily know those are the guys of the future. I doubt they are. Guys like Brendan Shoemaker are. Guys like that. And Brendan Shoemaker's a guy that we've heard a lot about as well. But right now, I think you're not going to see that. You're not going to see that for a couple of years. 22, maybe 23. It may be a while before you see a guy like that. But we'll see. Let me see. Also excited for Shea Langoliers next year, but he'll probably be a DH Contreras platoon candidate. I think he's going to be a backup catcher to Contreras. I think the Braves have every right to feel confident in Contreras' ability. And if Shea Langoliers is right behind him, then I would feel very confident bringing him up next year. Now, that's a big if. I don't know where he's at. But again, I told you I was confident in the catching depth in spring training. I don't know if you remember that. In spring training, I told you the catching depth was strong because at the time, you had Darno, you had Contreras, Langoliers, Logan Brown in the minors. You had a lot of catchers. Now, a lot of those catchers have gone down. They went and got Jeff Mathis, all credit to him, a great catcher behind the plate, not a good hitter. Contreras has been a good mixture of both. And I'll give him all the credit in the world. He's been great since he came up. He's been everything that a rookie catcher is expected to be. Hopefully Shea Langoliers will be the same. Stellar, I appreciate that. Hey, Tyler, you absolutely told me so. Riley is freaking killing it. Yeah, I've had a lot of my friends who didn't believe in Austin Riley come back and text me an apology for giving me a mess about that. And it's been a fun little game to play. Yeah, I believed in Austin Riley. I still do. I think he's going to be a Brave for a long time, and I think he's going to be a very good third baseman for a long time as well. Let me see. Miguel, all due respect, I'm done talking about Ozuna tonight. No offense. The 20-run game. Let me see. Oh, yeah, the Braves did have a 20-run game not too long ago. That was a fun one. Based Alaska says, I don't think Pache will ever hit like Andrew. A lot of people would have said the same thing about Andrew because remember, Andrew wasn't a power hitter until late in his career. So just give it time. I'm not saying believe in him, but give it time. Pache could develop. He's a good hitter. He's a power hitter. He's just got to develop, and that just is what it is. William Fulgham, good to hear from you. What do you think Double-A, what moves do you think Double-A makes? I think Double-A is going to do the best move for the Braves, whether that be the best move for the Braves in terms of this year alone, or whether that be for the next 5-year period. I don't think you're going to see him go get someone that's going to break the bank, which is why I think Charlie Blackmon could be a suitable, because, look, if you're only getting Charlie Blackmon for the next few months, it's not worth giving up, Drew Waters and, some of the big-name prospects. But a couple minor league pitching prospects might not be the worst thing in the world to get a big lefty bat. If not Blackmon, just a big lefty bat is what I want to see. And we'll see what happens. But we'll see. Let me see. David Thrash. Hey, Tyler, thanks for always pronouncing my last name correctly. I do my best. I'm not great with names, but I try my best. A lot of you guys have real creative names that I can't say. I try my best, but it's hard. Let me see. How do you like Luke Jackson? Can you finally admit you were wrong about the legendary Luke Jackson? Bill Gates, I can't say your name on camera. But I will say this. Luke Jackson has impressed me. I was never not a believer in Luke Jackson. I was more frustrated, I think. Like a lot of people were. Now, I will tell you this. I didn't expect him to have such a long streak and not giving up a run this year. He's been very effective. Not blow away stuff. I wouldn't want him in the ninth inning, but for the sixth inning, seventh inning, he can have it. He's been absolutely fantastic. The thing about Luke Jackson is, he finds a way to get in trouble, but he also finds a way out of it. So we'll see. I'm not sure that I'm ready to admit I was wrong, but to humor you, yes, I'll admit I was wrong. The Braves have to look for a three hitter bat. Yeah, I agree. We'll see. Now look, a lot of this is theory. Okay, this is all up here. It's not factual. What I mean by that is, Ozuna is not technically gone. He's not. Nothing has happened on paper. Now it's going to happen. I'm 95% sure something's going to happen. He's at least going to serve a suspension. He's at least going to, I think the Braves are going to void the contract and they're going to move on. But we're not going to know for a little while. So we'll see. I'm not. I don't really want to comment on it. It's a real personal issue. It's a shame it happened. And honestly, I think it's going to be something that we remember for a long time as Braves fans. It's very unfortunate. Let me see. Sorry, guys. Trying to keep up with you guys, but you guys type so fast. What about Peralta from Arizona? Not necessarily against that. I haven't really thought about it. Ketel Marte wouldn't be bad either. I see their UGA football highlight films. I do see you there. Not necessarily against either of those. Not necessarily for them. Whatever move the Braves, a lot of you guys ask me a lot of the time, what move do you want the Braves to make? Look, I can go suggest any left fielder in Major League Baseball. I could suggest Michael Brantley right now, and you guys be like, oh my gosh, Michael Brantley. The real skill here is finding someone that the Braves could potentially actually go get, not just naming somebody. I'm not going to throw out George Springer, for example, who's on a humongous contract with the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm going to try to suggest someone to you that's on a decent deal, wouldn't cost a fortune, and you could get something out of him. I think Charlie Blackmon could be an effective bat in that regard. So let's see. I got in terms of autograph of the day. I saw that question asked a second ago. Yes, we're going to have autograph of the day. We're going to have a pretty good one today too. I bought a big piece not so long ago. Is Kyle Muller making any progress? Jeff Nelson, I will tell you this. If you follow him on TikTok, you see a lot of his progress. Yeah, he seems to be doing all right. To me, the thing that stands out with Kyle Muller, I haven't looked at his stats this year. It's such a small sample size anyway. But the thing with Kyle Muller is confidence. He has a lot of that. Look at his Instagram posts and what he writes. He's very confident, which is something you don't see a lot of. Like Ian Anderson didn't have that. He's sort of a very, not boring, but just he handled his business and walked off the field. Kyle Muller is a guy that could be a lot like Trevor Bauer. He's got a social media presence. It would be interesting. I'm not saying skill level. I don't know. It's a long time away. But he's a fun guy to follow on social media regardless. But I do think he is making some progress. Let me see. I got to move on, guys. Tookie, I haven't heard anything on Tookie lately. I really haven't. I haven't heard anything on Tookie. I'll look into that, but I haven't heard anything. Based Alaska, Johan Izzo for 14. I didn't want to put it out there like that, but yeah, he hasn't got a hit all year. We'll see, though. Let me see. Luke Jackson's freaky, maybe. All right, so that's kind of it on the comments. So we're going to move on. I appreciate you guys tuning in, like always. I really do. It's been good catching up with you. If you got anything else, get it in right now. We are going to move into autograph of the day here in just a second. But before we do, I want to thank my sponsors one more time. So, LlerandIGloves.com. Those guys have been absolutely fantastic. And if you want to see their gloves, I suggest you go to their website, but this is one of them. LlerandIGloves.com is up there on the screen, guys. They gave me this glove. It's one of my favorite things I own. Leather's good, well made. I haven't been able to break it in, as you can tell, but I do absolutely love this glove. It's kind of basic, but they have all different kinds of styles on their website. Again, LlerandIGloves.com right there on the screen. Of course, their phone number is as well. So let's move on to autograph of the day. I got to move around a little bit. You guys are going to laugh at me. I'm sorry. But we're going to talk about this thing right here. I picked this up. I'm always telling you guys about different autograph conventions to go to. I went to one. My friend Bob Presley was running it. It was up in Atlanta. If I suggest you to go to an autograph convention, I suggest you really go. This is something I spent some money on. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you the price, but it's something I really spent some money on and I got. It is bat and helmet, obviously. Right-handed. And it's signed by none other than the Baseball Hall of Famer, Chipper Jones. Got the fat A on it, which means it's period correct. And it's one of my new favorite pieces. I absolutely love it. Obviously, one of my favorite players of all time, in Chipper Jones, Hall of Famer. Hard not to like Chipper Jones if you're a Braves fan. And just one of the guys that, has built this, has helped build the franchise. Something else I got for a great price, by the way. I only spent $20. This is an A-list exclusive bobblehead. It's Phil Niekro. Obviously, if you follow this channel, you know that I have a special relationship with Phil Niekro, so this is a great pickup. The cheapest I've seen this anywhere else is like $60. So to get it for $20 was a pretty good deal. So one other thing, I guess I'll go ahead and show you. I got this signed there as well. I didn't pay for this. I got it for free because he's a friend of mine. But I picked this piece up in Texas, and it looks so much like Chief Nakahoma's headdress that I had to get it signed by the man himself. So I just kind of like that piece. It's a cool desk piece that I'll have for a long time. With that, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in. We are going to wrap it up, and if you guys got anything else, you better get it in. We are going to, you know what, I better tell you this. We are going to hit lives more often now. I told you we got equipment now. I got it in just this week. Finally got it in, finally got it hooked up. Had to test it before I got on here. If you follow the channel, if you've been watching these lives, you know as well as I do how many technical issues we've had. They're not internet problems. The problem was, full disclosure here, I'll just tell you, everything that I've done prior to this point for On Deck has been on a MacBook Air, okay? Now, MacBook Airs are great. They're my favorite. I love MacBook Airs. I edit everything on this computer. It's sitting right in front of me right now. For school, they're wonderful. For running a live stream, they are not. They fail. They don't have enough CPU, all that good stuff. So I got a PC. It's not anything spectacular, but it does what I need it to do for this. The new setup is going to be efficient, I think, and I think it's going to last. So hopefully we won't have any more technical issues. Hopefully we move on pretty smoothly, and we don't have anything else like that. So if you've missed the live streams, they are back. The schedule will be a little bit more up in the air. They won't necessarily be on Tuesdays and Thursdays like they used to be, mainly because Braves are playing games on Tuesdays and Thursdays a lot of the time. And also, it's just hard to schedule around that a lot of the time. But we will do as many of them as we can. That's the best way I can put it. We will have plenty of pre-recorded stuff per usual. That will be, the pre-recorded stuff's a lot easier to fit into a schedule. Obviously, it takes about an hour to do instead of, setting up all this stuff and getting ready for a live stream. It's a little simpler to do. So hopefully that will be the case. But they are back. That is what is important. We do have some exciting content coming up. If you missed it on the community page, about a week from now, I will be headed to Cooperstown, New York. If you don't know what Cooperstown, New York is, you're not a baseball fan. That is the Baseball Hall of Fame's hometown. Been there before. I'm very excited. I do have an interview set up with the Baseball Hall of Fame. So I will be taking you guys inside the Baseball Hall of Fame and showing you guys some artifacts they got in there. Hopefully, maybe, just maybe going behind the scenes, maybe finding some old Braves memorabilia that hadn't really seen in a long time. Maybe, just maybe. The guys over there have been nothing but receptive to me. They've been very nice to me. By the way, if you've never been to the Hall of Fame, I suggest you go. It's a great trip. The town's nice. Go on Airbnb, find you a spot in Cooperstown. You will not be disappointed, okay? With that said, guys, again, we have a lot of exciting stuff going on. Oh, I got a thank you to give. If you follow him on Twitter, Dr. Bobble, his name escapes me. I'll find out in just a second. He was nice enough. I posted on Twitter that this is my first ever Gwinnett Stripers game that I'm going to Wednesday night, and Kenneth Swanson was nice enough to send me a parking pass for free. So I want to thank Kenneth, Dr. Bobble. Go follow him on Twitter. Super nice guy. Really appreciate that, and can't thank him enough. So Again, I will be there on Wednesday night at the Stripers game. I will be in the Cooperstown on Monday, I guess. So stay tuned for some stuff coming out of that. A lot of that will be pre-recorded. Don't really trust anything going live on this thing, so it will be pre-recorded, unfortunately. But we will be taking you guys into the Hall of Fame next week. Stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for more lives. Stay tuned for all that stuff. If you want to follow me on Twitter, as Atlanta Kid just asked, you can go look up at BubblegumJesus. It's also my Instagram, at bubblegum_Jesus. I should have put it up on the screen, but I don't have it ready. I'm sorry. You can find it also, I believe, in my About page. It should be there. It could be in the description below. Not entirely sure. But you'll find me, simple enough. But if you got me on Instagram, same thing as my Twitter. So go follow my social media. While you're here, subscribe to this channel. Okay? That's the best thing you can do. If you want to be notified when I go live, I think the easiest way to do that is to set notifications on, and it will tell you, and that is the best advice I can give you in terms of following this channel. So with that, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to hop out of here. Go look up Llerandi Gloves. Go check out their website. Go check out my social media. Subscribe to this channel. Stay tuned for more live streams. And, of course, stay tuned for more Cooperstown content right here at On Deck. And with that, guys, we are going to get out of here.